Welcome to Smart, Amazing Conversations with Dr. Nancy, a podcast that takes a look at stories of life and leadership for smart, amazing women and men like you.
The way I can give support to the world right now is by showing up. The most important thing is don't think just that you have to bring anything. Bring yourself, show up.
If you are in a position of leadership and a position of management, bring women along with you.
Supporting women is Dr. Nancy's passion and her purpose, and talking with other women and men who promote women's leadership is one of her favorite things to do.
I've yet to meet a woman who did not know what she really wanted. She was just either afraid to ask the questions or she was afraid of what the answers meant.
Their stories connect us and help us understand that the possibilities are endless if we support each other and lift other women up.
Trust is created by persistent identity. I show up in my conversations. I build relationships. I show up as myself time and time and time again. And trust is built. It's one conversation at a time.
This week's guest is Pat Mitchell. Throughout her career as an award-winning journalist, producer, and media executive, Pat broke new ground for women. As the editorial director of TED Women and co-founder of Connected Women Leaders, she grew new platforms to elevate women's leadership and ideas. Pat serves on the boards of the Sundance Institute, the Skoll Foundation, Participant Media, the V-Day Movement to End Violence, and she's also a member of CARE's Global Advisory Council and Chair Emeritus of the Women's Media Center, which established an annual award in her name. In her memoir, Becoming a Dangerous Woman, Embracing Risk to Change the World, Pat shares her journey as a frontline advocate for a just, equitable, and sustainable world. Now here's Dr. Nancy and her guest, Pat Mitchell.
I always want to start out the conversations with you talking to a dangerous woman. I absolutely love that book, and I love that whole concept. And anytime I think of you, I just think of the dangerous woman. But and you still are, and you always will be.
Thank you, Nancy. I hope I'm getting more dangerous.
Yes.
Every year, and I actually know that I am, because as you age and as each year goes by faster than the last, I realize more and more how I have to be more dangerous, because there isn't that much time left to be effective. And as you and I know, with all that we're facing in the world, you got to be dangerous. Dangerous times call for dangerous women.
But I learned so much from people such as yourself. I get on these conversations and I always walk away and I've learned something, and they're so valuable to me. Much of what I do has to do with, things that I've always done. Probably you also. It's impacted your life. And then you say, well, it's got to impact other people's lives as well. But, I do like to start these conversations, and we've done this before, but it's really talking about your personal story, because I think women still believe everybody else is smarter, thinner, better looking, more intelligent. and their lives have been easy. And you and I both know the women that are probably the most successful and the most energized women have had their challenges and their trials and tribulations. And when we share those, we realize we're not by ourselves, and we're more alike than we are different. So tell us about Pat. How'd you get to be you?
When I started the book, the biggest challenge I had is one you've already referenced. And that is, I first of all thought, what in my story can really have meaning to anyone outside of family and friends?
Right.
And then secondly, writing the book meant actually reflecting on my own story, whereas I had spent most of my career focused on other women's stories. As a journalist, as a documentary filmmaker, I was always looking to ways I could tell other women's stories. So I found trying to tell my own very difficult. And yet I do know, as you already said, that it's really important for us all to do that, to share our stories, because they're none of them really are what they look like. Because we've all found ways to make a path in the world, and we've done it with failures. I've certainly had my share of those, and learned from all of them. But briefly, the story, my story is that it started in a very rural environment in South Georgia with a farm family. Neither one of my parents went to college. In fact, I was the first person in my family to go to college on a scholarship. But from the beginning, as far back as I can remember anything, I remember thinking, I have to have choices beyond what I look at in my life, in my circle of family and friends. I just knew I didn't want that life. What it would be instead, I didn't know, but I knew education was the ticket out. So gratefully, I got a scholarship and got that, and then teaching was my first choice. And it's interesting because I still feel like that's essentially what I do in the world.
Yeah,
is teach, learn, and teach and share. But after 5 years of college teaching, I had this opportunity to become a journalist. And even though I never thought of that before, it seemed like I could take the classroom to a much bigger classroom. And that led to a couple of big failures where I went to magazines that went bankrupt and found myself unemployed with a young son to support because I had gotten a divorce, early marriage, early divorce. And then out of that, an opportunity to knock on a door I'd never, ever thought about, television. And it was at the time that television was being encouraged, if not incentivized, by quotas to hire women and what they call minorities at the time.
Tokenism.
Yeah. Well, I was the token in the Boston NBC station. I mean, it turned out to be just a fabulous place to start with a progressive management that allowed me to start a women's show, allowed me to, and by allow, I should qualify that by something I'm sure you know, meaning I could work 24 hours a day if I wanted
you could work your butt off. Yes, I know.
Yeah, work twice as hard.
Your show could be at an odd time of the day, and you could work your butt off doing it too. So yes, I understand.
Work twice as hard for half the money, and be grateful. Why, and here I am still saying they allowed. But what I meant to say in that is that they were smart enough to realize audiences were actually watching women's programming, that if they put it out there, there was an audience for it. Right. And so I just kept trying to prove that point, that the women in our communities, their stories, challenges, accomplishments needed to be told. So just quickly, that's what I spent my life finding ways to do.
Well, you're still a storyteller, and so am I. And I didn't realize that also as I was going through my process of all those things that you've even described, that storytelling has become the most important thing that we've always had in our history. In every culture, the storyteller, before we had digital, before we had anything, were the storytellers. And it typically could be a woman, a shaman, a woman, a medicine woman who was telling about the stories of past generations, and the history and the knowledge was passed on. So storytelling, and and I'm now on the board of the National Women's History Museum, which I'm totally thrilled about. But the storytelling is so important. And one of the things that you're doing, and my daughter is very involved in climate change. So I'm very excited about talking to you about that, because I'd really like to connect you with my daughter, Reagan. She's involved with a foundation that is called World Solution Systems. And it's all about climate change, but it's women and climate change. Yeah. This is the focus that they're using. So let's talk about I know you've done so many things, TED Women, but this is your new inclusive passion is the Dandelion Project. So let's talk about that, because that's key right now. That is so important. We don't realize what's the world going to be like for the next generations, your son, my daughters, my grandchildren.
I'm very happy to have a time to talk to you about Project Dandelion, which grew out of the work of a cohort of connected women leaders from 50 different countries, 50 different parts of the world, business, government, social enterprise, arts, And we all got together and we started looking at the global challenges that we thought our learning could contribute back to problem solving.
Right.
Food security, gender equity,
Yeah.
global health, and climate. And the more we worked together from 2017 forward, we realized the intersectional connection between all those issues was climate. If we didn't solve climate and have a habitable place on which to live, then food security, gender equality, all the other issues were intersectional to that one. Yeah. And Mary Robinson, the former president of Ireland, kind of pushed us all against a wall one day and said, no matter what we're working on, we have to recognize that climate and finding climate justice, not talking about climate change anymore, but climate justice. Climate change is a reality. How we address it has to be done in just ways. And as your daughter has already found out clearly, women are leading the solutions already all over the world, but they're under-resourced, they're under-financed, they're people aren't aware of what they need. And we want, through a global media campaign that will go to every country and every language, to engage women leaders, no matter whether they're leading in a rural village, whether they're leading a farm cooperative, or they're leading the government, wherever they are, to step forward and say, here's the reality. Women are disproportionately being impacted by the climate crisis. Women are losing their lives. More women died of air pollution in this world, 9 million last year, than TB, malaria, and a whole bunch of other things combined. Mm-hmm. Women are losing land and livelihoods. And their health. It is affecting every area of our lives. And women are still the ones leading on the ground, finding the solutions and not being properly resourced. So we want in this campaign to do two things, at least two things. One of them is elevate that work, the work that your daughter is doing and that we're discovering, because we went all over the world in a research phase, identifying these projects that are changing, that are addressing the crisis. Bring more support, strengthen that, but more importantly, connect to these groups to each other so that as we collaborate, build new partnerships, we can actually have a greater collective force for its change. And that's resources. That's our audacious goal, Nancy, is to link women everywhere at every level to step forward and say, you guys had your chance. We're still a long way from having solutions. We're on a 7-year timeline to get this done, to have a habitable planet, air to breathe, food to eat.
Where does the 7 years come from?
We were told by scientists after the Paris Agreement that if we did not reduce carbon emissions by 40% by 2030, we would be in an irreversible place in terms of air to breathe and water to drink and all the ecosystems and biodiversity necessary. Now, we know, unfortunately, that we're not going to be anywhere near that target, no matter what, because we'll never get to 49%, probably 40%. But if we can start the change and get every company and every government to actually fulfill the commitments they've already made, and then we have women as a new collective force pushing on all the policies that, first of all, end subsidies to oil and gas. We're spending $8 trillion a year subsidizing the very corporations and companies and industries that are killing us. That are ruining our waters and our air and our lives. So at a very minimum, to organize women to go to demand that we change that. That would go a long way to reducing carbon. And then what your daughter's probably working on is what I call the restorative end of the climate work. because we can regenerate the land. We can reclaim biodiversity. It can happen very quickly because, as you know, and she sees in her work, it comes back. Nature comes back. All we got to do is put a little bit better balance between the way we're living and what nature needs to thrive. So that can happen. And if we started moving in that direction with bringing back species, with restoring our forest, we're doing regenerative land policies. By 2030, we'll be in a place that will start to stabilize. We won't be where we have to be. That'll still take many, many more years. But if we don't, we're headed for catastrophe. So where we see ourselves is on this cusp right now. We're getting close to a clean energy future. We actually know how to do it. But if we don't start to do it.
Well, you can travel through Europe and different parts of the world, and you see solar, you see wind, you see them already so far ahead. It's just natural. You go through the countries and you just see tunnels, solar everywhere. And you just, it's almost amazing that the US is so far behind. When you drive to Palm Springs, you see the wind machines. The electricity being produced that way. But do you go, you can't go around the rest of the United States seeing all these energy, natural energy sources. And it's really, where is the US in all this? And where are women in the US with this? I think that's a good question right there. What are we missing here?
Well, the US is not where it should be, because we should be in a leadership position here. But we're not. We even pulled out of the Paris Agreement under Donald Trump. That's been restored. But these agreements, these global agreements, only go so far. You're right to point out that at every individual level, we all need to be investing in clean energy. We need to be driving electric cars and having solar panels on our houses. As Mary Robinson likes to say, just do something personal every day. Really little actions do start to add up. But when I travel around the world and see that Kenya, for example, is 85% off for gas and oil, and there are countries moving so much faster than we are, and that's why we know it's possible. But here in this country and everywhere, I also see that women are in many places leading the innovations, leading the new ideas. And that's why we believe that it's possible. When women are leading in a community, action just follows. Whether it's farmers in India, and 9 million Indian women farmers have now joined this coalition. So that's really what we want to do, is go country to country with this campaign saying, it's up to us. We got the knowledge, we got the commitment, we've got the passion, and if we come together, we'll have the power.
Women, again, in the United States, we buy over 85% of products and services. We are the leaders when it comes to problem solvers, because we are the ones that take care of our families. We are the ones that take care of our communities. We see the problems. So it only makes sense that this is the population that we have to encourage. But then we go back to the issue of women feeling the gender equity and gender equality so that they're able to use their voices and use their power too. So, we've got a balance here that we've got to keep working on. And you're right, it's the organizations that are already doing these things that we can connect with. I can think of 2 organizations right now that would be a perfect match with what the Dandelion Project is doing. So for me, it's always a matter of when I hear something, I go, well, wait a minute, there's so-and-so, there's such and such, they're doing these things, or they're involved in a global presence that it only makes sense that they're able to do that. Well, for instance, Convoy of Hope, they work with women and children, but again, their biggest thing is teaching agriculture.
Yeah.
I mean, there are organizations out there that if we, smart women, we say, okay, I don't necessarily have those resources, but so-and-so does, and such and such has. So if anything, today we can start connecting more dots. That's the most important.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd love to know the names of any organizations you'd recommend. We certainly have mapped the landscape and found hundreds with thousands everywhere, and putting them together, especially those who are working on the same issues, but in silos right now. So if we bring together what we're already doing, we're not creating a new climate organization with Project Dandelion.
No, we don't. You don't want to create something. You want to use existing resources, and then of course to encourage them to use one another's resources so that everybody wins. Okay, so again, women can help just by joining forces with their organizations. So I guess it's a matter of me connecting you with other people. I know Reagan, my daughter, would be thrilled to talk with you and your organization. I know that World Pulse, which is a global organization that voices of everyone, all the women in the world, these are the people that are solving the problems for women and children. And then of course, Convoy of Hope, Dory Donaldson. I mean, there are so many people that are out there doing, and organizations that are doing phenomenal work, that sure, again, connecting them will be the most important thing. Okay, so the most important thing, Dandelion, how will you know that you're making an impact? How will you know this organization? How do you show accountability? How do you do
first of all, we're not an organization.
Okay.
So we're just an initiative, not just.
Okay.
We are in a movement. We are a campaign.
Okay.
And what we want to provide, and by the way, we have to raise money to do this. We got seed money from the Rockefeller Foundation and from Melinda Gates. And with that money, we were able to at least find all the people who were doing the work, or most of them anyway, and set this campaign in motion. We haven't even officially launched yet. We will launch it in Rwanda in July.
Okay.
And Deliver organization, which is about 8,000 women from every sector of the world coming together. And that will be the beginning of how we then we're going to send out field guides to every organization working. Here's your media toolkit. Here's how you use it. We will start a campaign that will have hopefully messages that connect with people that say, climate justice is gender justice, which it is.
Yeah, I like that.
Climate justice is racial justice, which
I like that. I like that.
It's indigenous rights justice. It's land justice. So we have to make this point. So we say, then look for those solutions. And in doing that, we will measure the success of our campaign, or the campaigns, not ours, everybody's campaign, by how we have changed systems, how we have taken steps forward in each country. It'll be different in each country and community, but it won't be our success. It'll be the success of the climate justice movement.
Okay, well, I'm getting my terminology down, because it definitely is important. You are a movement.
It is, Nancy, because that's one way to go, is to try and form another global organization. But that just adds infrastructure and management and all those things that we don't need to be raising money for. All we want, what we're raising money for, is to create that campaign and to create some policy statements and actions that everybody can take and say, okay, here's what you need to do in Africa. Here's a field guide for the women in India. Maybe it applies to the women in Appalachia. We're going to do that big high level stuff that, by the way, not one single organization we talked to had the money to do. Yeah. So they're under-resourced and they don't have communication budgets. Who can afford them?
Yeah. Well,
that's where Dandelion comes in.
Okay. Well, I think, what I've found in my lifetime is people really do want to help. They just don't know how. And so for me, it's always been about awareness and creating an opportunity for people to learn and understand what the issues are and how they can be involved. So for me, it's always been about, and then asking. You've got to ask. You've got to ask for what you need, and you've got to stand up and use your voice. So this is what you're so good at, TED Women. You're that is a fantastic organization, and you're the founder of that. And I mean, but again, awareness is key. And so I believe what we can do today is to help you with that awareness and continue that campaign and the movement and the initiative for the Dandelion Project. And you had me at hello.
And Nancy, can I just tell you briefly why we named ourselves Dandelion? You probably know it because you are so connected to nature through your work, your horses, your life, your ranch. It's not called a ranch. You call it a farm?
It's equestrian center.
Equestrian center.
There you go. That sounds more sophisticated.
Yeah, right. Well, that sounds what it is. But we chose dandelions very deliberately because dandelions grow on every continent in the world, even in Antarctica. They grow no matter what the condition. They thrive. You cannot get rid of them. So they're resilient. They're restorative. Dandelions are actually used in parts of the world to restore farmland that has been overused. We use them in teas. We use
dandelion tea. I've heard of, yes.
That's right. So dandelions have, as one biologist told us, dandelions have one purpose in the world: to seed other dandelions. Remember when you were a little girl, didn't you pick up a dandelion and go and blow the seeds? That's what a dandelion's purpose is in the world. So that's why we call ourselves Project Dandelion, is we want to be the, every climate.
Well, let's all be the dandelion. All right.
So thank you for being a part of the.
All right. So how do we help? What do you need? What do you need?
Well, when we launch, we need every woman engaged. We need people to talk about climate. We need people to understand and talk about the concept of climate justice, as opposed to we can't do it, the climate crisis. We're trying to get rid of that negative language, that language that is about blame and shame and fear that we can't do it. Women can do it.
Yeah.
And so we want to shift the narrative, shift our conversations to be about hope. We can do this.
Right.
And then, as you know about organizations that are in the work already, connecting them to us, we'll have a big website presence by then that will start to record the inquiries that come from groups. And then we'll be pushing out this message.
Okay.
So
you'll have messages that each organization can use. And so you have some common language, and you have a focus as far as what the mission is and what we're asking everybody to do.
Yeah. Well, we'll have a list of, right now we have 6 very clear actions that we're going to ask people to demand. And I'd rather probably wait till we launch because we're still clarifying the language on some of those. But there will be very specific calls to action too.
All right. Well, I'm excited to be in the early stages so that Connect for Good can be even more helpful to you. So that's fantastic. So I guess what you can do with me is you can send me information after we're finished with this conversation today, and then discuss at some point ways that I can help, and Women Connect can help, and connect these other organizations to become a part of this movement. So
Absolutely.
Fantastic. I didn't think you were in your house eating bonbons, by the way. I didn't think you were back there just going, oh, I think I'll take a nap right now. Kind of.
Right. Let
me go check my makeup. I have so many things. I think I'll just take another little nap right now. This is the thing about women who I came out of the womb going, what can I do? How can I help? And it's there are days that I go and the balls, as I said, are in the air, and then I start to go, I don't think I can take another ball, but pretty soon I've got another ball in my hand going, this is a good looking ball. I like this ball. So anyway.
That is a great way to think about it. That's going to help me get through the rest of the day, is thinking, well, that was a good looking ball I picked up. No,
you gotta say, I gotta learn to juggle better. Yeah, you gotta juggle better.
But women are good jugglers. We have to be. We grow up juggling, right? So
yes, we do. We do.
Yeah,
and you know what? We get a lot done. And you know what's even more good, that more fun, when we do it together and we support each other. And that's the whole mission, and always has been the mission of Women Connect for Good. When we support each other, anything is possible. And this is possible. This is very possible. So I want to congratulate
I am very buoyed by your enthusiasm, Nancy, because you do know, you better than so many, you understand the power of connection. What it means to connect with each other, and then do what the Dandelion does, seed out for other women. That the most dangerous thing we can do, going back to being dangerous women as we both are, the most dangerous thing we can do is show up for each other and seed each other's work with support and advocacy, right?
Yeah. Well, is there some place that people can go now, since we're recording this and they will be listening? Is there some place that they can go in the meantime to start reading and knowing some things? Or are you still going to, you will let me know that you will send?
Yeah, in July, I actually think the date's July 15th. We will announce publicly, and the website will open.
Okay.
That right now on connectedwomenleaders.com, there is some information about it, and I'm writing about it. And my newsletter today has a little bit about what we did in London last weekend, because we have started to go and meet with women, large women's groups, to start to proselytize, if you will, to get the point out. But I will keep you informed.
Okay. But in the meantime, they could probably just go to Pat Mitchell and look at what you're doing and get your newsletter, or they could go to Connected Women.
They could definitely sign up on my newsletter, because I'll be writing about it constantly now. And connectedwomenleaders.com, which is also on my signature on the email. But on my website, there will be this newsletter today, and then almost every week following.
Okay. Well, then they should go to patmitchell.com, or what is that what they
patmitchellmedia.com.
Patmitchellmedia.com, and then connectedwomen.com. But you said that if they just go to you, they can do all that. So, all right. Well, we're off and running to the show, and another great movement, and I congratulate you on everything that you do. And you're such a force. A wonderful force, a force of good.
I accept that, and so are you, Nancy. That's why it's so nice to have a conversation together. And are you competing at this horse show?
Yes. I've got 4 Arabians here. I'm going to drive and ride one, and I've got 2 other horses. I've got a baby here that's coming out for his first big show, and his name is Magic, Majestic Air, Magic.
So I love it.
I hope Magic
great success.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We will. This is just one of many conversations.
I am sure of that. Thank you very much. From one dandelion to another.
Thank you. Have a great day, and we'll be in touch.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Great.
If you enjoy these smart, amazing conversations, please subscribe, rate, and review them on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And read and enjoy more amazing stories in my books, In This Together, How Successful Women Support Each Other in Work and Life, and Leading Women, 20 Influential Women Share Their Secrets to Leadership, Business, and Life. Thank you for listening.